so you can get to know it, so you can get to know me. Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top, and I'm gon' shine, homie. Yeah, go ahead and MVP. I'm Raps MVP. I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me. Whoa. From the beginning to the end, losers lose, winners win. This is real, we ain't got to pretend. The cold world that we in is full of pressure and pain. Nigga, now listen to game. Used to see 5-0, throw the crack by the bench. Now I'm fucking with 5-0, it's all start to make sense. My mom's happy she ain't gotta pay the rent, and she got a red bow on that brand new Benz. Waiting on shot money to lane, sitting in the rain, thinking how they spent $30 million on airplanes. When this kid's starving, pack is gone and Brenda's still throwing babies in the garbage. I wanna know what's going on like I hear Marvin. No school books, they use that wood to build coffins. Whenever I'm in the booth and I get exhausted, I think what if Marie Baker got that abortion? I love you, man. Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top, and I'm gon' shine, homie. Go ahead and MVP. I'm Raps MVP. I ain't gon' nowhere, so you can get to know it, so you can get to know me. Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top, and I'm gon' shine, homie. Go ahead and MVP. I'm Raps MVP. I ain't gon' nowhere, so you can get to know me. I started out at 15, scared as hell. I took 30 off a pad, made themselves as a youth. Man, I used to passion for loot, put them boot blues too, and my group of fed glow, sapping music diva, out in the beach. I'm a whipper wish and found my peace, and the vibes on right, come down, and I'm first for the petty, so forget the West. Hate it or love it, I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
To all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to lace these lyrical Dutches in your bushes, who rock grooves and make moves with all the mommies. The back of the club sipping my wet is where you'll find me. The back of the club macking hoes, my crew's behind me. Mad question asking, blunt passing, music blasting, but I just can't quit, because one of these honeys Biggie gotta creep with, sleep with, keep the ep a secret. Why not? Why blow up my spot? Cause we both got caught. Now check it, I got more Max than Craig, and in the bed, believe me sweetie, I got enough to feed the needy, no need to be greedy. I got mad friends with Benz and C-No's by the last, true to life players. Jump in a Rover and come over, tell your friends jump in a GS3. I got the honey's by the tree. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. I love it when you call me Big Papa. True the honey's getting money, playing fellas like dummies. I love it when you call me Big Papa. If you gotta get up in your waist, please don't shoot Most of these fellas think they be macking, but they be acting. Who they attracting with that line? What's your name, what's your sign? Soon as he buy that wine, I just creep up from behind and ask what your interests are. Who you be with? Things to make you smile. What numbers to dial? You gon' be here for a while. I'm gon' go call my crew. You go call your crew. We can rendezvous at the bar around 2. Plans to leave. Throw the keys to little C's. Pull the truck up front and roll up the next blunt so we can steam on the way to the telly. Go fill my belly, T-bone steak, cheese, eggs, and Welch's great. Conversate for a few, cause in a few we gon' do what we came to do. Ain't that right, boo? Forget the telly, we just go to the crib and watch a movie in the jacuzzi. Smoke L's while you do me. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. I love it when you call me Big Papa. To the honeys getting money, playing fellas like dummies. I love it when you call me Big Papa. If you gotta get up in your waist, please don't shoot up the place. Why? Cause I see some ladies tonight that should be having my baby. Smalls and mansion and Benz is giving ends to my friends, and it feels stupendous, tremendous cream. Get $1 and a dream, steel toe gas strapped with infrared beams. Chopping O's, smoking lion optimals, money holes and clothes. All a nigga knows a foolish pleasure. Whatever, I had to find a buried treasure. So grams I had to measure. However, living better now, Gucci sweater now, drop top BMs, I'm the man, girlfriend. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. I love it when you call me Big Papa. To the honeys getting money, playing fellas like dummies. I love it when you call me Big Papa. If you gotta get up in your waist, please don't shoot up the place. Why? Cause I see some ladies tonight that should be having my baby. Baby. Love it, the underdogs on top, and I'm gon' slide on it until my heart stops. Go ahead, envy me. I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me. Did you know me? Hate it, love it, the underdogs on top, and I'm gon' slide on it. Go ahead, envy me. I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me. Did you know me? On the grill of my lowrider, guns on both sides. Right above the gold wires, I'm 4-5. I'm kill a nigga on my song and really do it. That's the true meaning of a ghost rider. 10 G's will take your daughter out of Air Forces. Believe me, homie, I know all about losses. I'm from Compton where the wrong colors be cautious. One phone call, I'll have your body dumped in Marcy. I stay strapped like car seats. Been banging since my little nigga Rob got killed for his Barclays. Last 10 years, I told Pooh in 95. I'll kill you if you try me for my Air Max 95. Told Banks when I met him, I'm a ride. And if I gotta die, I'd rather homicide. I ain't had 50 when my grandmama died. Now I'm going back to Cali with my Jacob on, see how time flies. Hate it, I love it, the underdogs on top, and I'm gon' shine, homie. Yeah. Stop. Go ahead, envy me. I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me. Get to know me. Hate it, I love it, the underdogs on top, and I'm gon' shine on it. Hey, go ahead, MVP. I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me. Hey, from the beginning to the end, losers lose, winners win. This is real, we ain't got to pretend.
What's up?
What is up?
Good morning. Friday stack number 2. We got Rob Wallace here. Avi is on the move in Manhattan at a podcast studio. So new podcast coming out soon. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it doesn't flub. But I got Rob, who I think could be a better talent. We'll see.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm Rob. I'm from Bitcoin News. We cover the Bitcoin news. That's what we do. And there's some big Bitcoin news today. So let's get into it. I mean, it's the Friday stack. We give away some Bitcoin. We wrap up the week. It's at noon Eastern over here. So hopefully you guys are on lunch break or something. You can just take a little time on your Friday, have some fun with us, and roll into the weekend on a high vibe. I love that music, dude. I'm just like rocking out the whole 10 minutes beforehand. Yeah, it's a good job on Avi. Yeah. If he's good for one thing, I guess it's that, right?
Shouldn't be singing every lyric, at least from our perspective, but it's a banger.
You can dance to it, dude. But yeah, we can also dance to the fact the title of today's show, Saylor didn't sell. So yeah, if you want to bring up my screen, we can talk about this. Some misinformation on the timeline this morning. We've got Walter Bloomberg, sort of a notorious character over here. Walter Bloomberg, well known, has never changed his profile picture. Power to him. He's got a million or so followers, and he had this tweet go out today with 867,000 impressions, and it's just fuel for the Bitcoin haters, the MSTR haters. He's saying Arkham reports that Saylor's strategy cuts Bitcoin holdings by 47,000 Bitcoin. This is a lie. This is not true, but this was what came out at 3 hours ago. Arkham data shows Michael Saylor's strategy reduced its Bitcoin holdings from 484,000 to 437,000. That isn't even how much Bitcoin they have. They have over 640,000. Like these numbers are just all wrong. And yeah, they said this is the first reported decrease since July 2023. They've never sold any Bitcoin ever. And then Saylor posted hold on the same morning, along with an image of himself appearing to escape a sinking ship. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty funny. That happened as well. I guess we can bring that up. And we've got Saylor. Of course, he posts his AI images every morning. And this one was him escaping a sinking ship. Was this? Yeah. Not the best look for Saylor's intern to be posting an AI image of him escaping a sinking ship the same day that there's rumors and lies about them selling Bitcoin. But that didn't happen. These people are just, they're out of their dang minds. And Saylor had to come out and just, we got to get this ratio up. We got to make sure that more, I mean, they got a lot more likes than the original one, but more people got to see this. There is no truth to this rumor. There is no truth to this rumor.
Thankfully so. We saw him this week. Yeah, we saw Saylor in Miami. And I mean, I think there's a clear reason for this. Clear, not for the rumor starting, but clear reason that's not true is he's okay with the common stock going below 200 like today. Like,
yeah,
that's the truth. I mean, it's bad for, I'm an MSTR shareholder, but just know that, you know, he's willing to let that run down and be beaten up a little bit in order to remain pretty liquid and to not sell his Bitcoin. It's been brutal.
Nuts.
It's been a long ride down, but I think he understands the fundamentals of, you know, it's about sentiment, and selling your Bitcoin is just going to ruin, you know, the sentiment around what he's doing. So, and the belief, you know, of making it through a bear market. This is probably very grainy, but I'm going to share this. This is something that our friend Jeff Walton shares on True North. I think every Wednesday he's going through his pro forma, his spreadsheets he's created. But I had a friend that was asking around liquidation. And that's the thing that people ask about. It's like, oh, Bitcoin goes under 100, Saylor's getting liquidated. Absolutely not true. You know, I think being able to break down, you don't even need to get really into the details of convertible bonds versus how much like preferred stock is out there, what's required from these payments. But generally, the simple way to think of it is the convertible bonds that they do have out, debt that they need to pay interest on, those are staggered out. And, you know, when those actually mature is going to be staggered out through different time periods and different years. So they've thought ahead, you know, to make it through some of these bear markets. If there was a 4-year bear market, yes, you know, 4 to 5 years, that would be painful. but they are planning for such things. The key thing you need to look at is the Bitcoin price needed for assets to be less than liabilities is around 18 to 23,000. So if you needed a liquidation level to talk about, and your friends you're debating, that's really the level you're looking at. And I just don't see Bitcoin dropping that fast, that far after Larry Fink was buying up 5 billion Bitcoin at 105. It does not make sense that it could drop that far. I think over a prolonged period of time in some huge black swan event is possible. Anything is possible, but there's so much more that would get wrecked in the market. And there's people with a lot of capital that would not let that, they see a 50K or 65K, 84K, like they're buying that dip, with large amount of capital. So MSTR is not the one to worry about. Some other treasury companies, I think are very fair to be cautious and poke holes at, but MSTR should not be the first one you look at.
Yeah, I think that's a great number to have in your back pocket. Bitcoin needs to fall to 23,000 for there to be any fear of them not being able to cover their liabilities. And yeah, that's just not going to happen because Saylor will just sell more MSTR common shares to cover that, whatever payments he needs to make for his debt obligations, right? But here we are, and we're at the end of 2025. We thought that this was going to be the blow off top quarter, right? If we follow cycle analysis, this should be the time, October, November, December, where we see Bitcoin just rip to 150, 180, 200. As many people thought that would happen if we went by past results. Well, that is not what's happening. We are below 100K, sitting right now at 96.8. But that's okay. If you want to bring up my screen again, we can bring up this chart here by Wicked. Got to follow Wicked. Amazing charts and videos of Bitcoin data analysis. And I think this is the real problem, right? Is that this is our bull market. We in 2021 we were 5x where we were from the previous halving, right? So it's hard to stay super rah when you don't get the bull run that you expected, but who knows what could happen. The cycles could be completely different this time around in 2026. There's so many bullish things lining up for 2026.
There are. It also, I think people should also be thinking about when, if it is true that the cycle really hasn't been the bull run we had hoped for, but you have all this like bullish buying, you have, countries, companies, you have a whole new set of buyers. You do have whales that are selling. But Adam Back said on stage this week, he was like, people are counting, whales and long-term holders as people that have held 55 days or more. And he's like, seems like a, quarterly trader, barely over a month in there, almost 2 months. So he wasn't convinced that people in his cohort of being, early Bitcoiners, among the first 5 to 10 people that bought Bitcoin, or even the top 100, that have, bought and accumulated a large amount of Bitcoin, were all selling. I think it absolutely has happened, but I don't think, they could be selling for at over 100K and buying it, 84, 80, 90. Like, I think what this means to me is that cycle I think has changed. If it's not going to have the blow off top, if we didn't rip to, I think 150 or 180, then I'm a little less, I think it could be one of those slow accumulation times where it's like, we're going to see likely, more pain through end of year, potentially, unless we have a huge, liquidity surge. And, after like people do tax loss harvesting, which I think is going to happen a lot, especially with AI, really ripping and driving the market, that's probably going to soften. And then going into January, February, people are going to start buying again. And there's going to be some of that strong interest. But that also means that likely less to see a huge drawdown, that's going to be prolonged for months if we didn't see the euphoria, to pop up this year.
100%. And as you said, there's been lots of talk of the OG selling. We did have some massive headlines like a whale selling 80,000 Bitcoin over the course of like 2 days. That was done by Galaxy on their client's behalf. So there has been some massive OG whales letting go. Jody Visser's, of course, Bitcoin IPO moment where it is changing hands from the early adopters to the more TradFi people, of course. But also, I think this latest selling that we're seeing in the last couple of days to a week or so is people who have bought in 2024 and had bought around 60, 70K and are saying, okay, I've gotten on this ride and I've got some gains. Now it's time to get out. So these people weren't long-term Bitcoin holders and they just did it as a trade, as some people do. And now it's they're getting their ducks in a row for taxes, right? And it makes sense. And when Bitcoin goes down 20% as $100,000 asset, it's a lot more jarring than say a stock that's around $200 and goes down 20%, goes from $200 to 160 is not as big of a deal, at least psychologically, as seeing Bitcoin go from 126 to 96, right? So there are some psychological components here that you have to be mindful of.
We got listener Sean Ristel. He's still a buyer. Sean, I hope your pockets are deep. We need you to be buying this dip. Support the market for us.
Yes. Defend 100K. We must get back to 100K. I think Ethereum is green on the day today. What the hell is that? With Bitcoin still down around 2%. That's a little nutty. And Zcash is up like 13% today, dude. What is this scam pump going on? What in tarnation is happening over there in Silicon Valley where they're just that's the exit liquidity. That is your altcoin pump exit liquidity. Do not be fooled. Zcash is not the future. Bitcoin is the future. So be sure that you're riding the right horse here.
That's the thing. If you unpack it further, right? Like I think you've seen just different ideas roll out 2017 ICOs, and then you have altcoins go through different like phases and cycles. And a lot of times they're great ideas. Hey, this is a really cool idea to rebuild finance, and you need to celebrate new ideas. But after a while, people are like, well, this is completely not a scam project, but it gets manipulated. It becomes about the token. The token is the product, as people have joked about in like Web3s, like the token is the product, the price is the product. And you're like, wait, like you can't keep running that same playbook over and over and over. And like people have. The thing it has to get down to is like privacy is important, like bar none. I think there's certainly like some cool things that people have done with Bitcoin that are focused on like adding, privacy layers to that. As we talked about Samurai last week, the developers getting, prosecuted and sentenced like jail time, or prison time. The problem is like from a usage perspective, that's where I think this is going to deflate pretty quickly. Is like how many people are doing large scale, high volume private transactions. Like you could have, there's a lot of use cases, but how often is that use case happening? And I think it's just not, I don't care if someone sees me buy Starbucks, and like if I go to Cash, if I use Cash App and I use Lightning to go pay, use Bitcoin to pay for coffee, I'm not going to like pay more for that to be private. I just don't see that use case. I think there's some businesses and corporates. Hey, you're paying a contract. You're placing a bid. You're doing like international trade finance. Yes, you do want that private, but like, what is the volume of those transactions? And those companies are not using Zcash right now. So, they're not using Bitcoin right now. They're still using US dollars. So then it really comes to think of like, okay, hey, there could be value in privacy. Maybe Zcash has a role in the future. That's probably 3-4 years away before we really get volume or size in any type of like day-to-day transaction. And what that looks like is, just like you value stocks, is are they making revenue? Is there utility? And it's just not there.
Yeah, I mean, if Zcash was really private, the powers that be wouldn't like it, right? And we're seeing that with Monero. Monero is being delisted from the large exchanges because the governments are shaking their finger and say, hey, get that out of here. So if it really was private, it probably wouldn't be listed on these big exchanges. And secondly, yeah, Zcash is only as private as your overall ecosystem, right? The second that you take that off or transfer it into dollars or Bitcoin or something else, as soon as you off ramp it, you're losing that quote unquote privacy. So yeah, as you said, unless there's like a giant circular economy with millions of dollars moving around in Zcash to do large important purchases, then yeah, it's a folly. It's a joke. But yeah, that's enough Zcash, Jay. We don't need to talk about this, even though it was on stage at
stage.
At the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam. There's a Bitcoin treasury company called Treasury. They are the sponsors of that Bitcoin conference. And the CEO of Treasury said that Zcash looked interesting to him. It was a big boo moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Winklevoss twins.
They're pumping it.
Push their own IPO. Hey, I feel like it's not the play right now. With how DAT's performed, that people are losing trust immediately. And anything you say, if you're pumping this coin, because I think some of the fundamentals of even doing this amplified asset exposure through a DAT is just losing a lot of sheen until they figure out, okay, how are we going to long-term command a premium over just buying the asset itself? And like Saylor and team have to do a lot of work to roll out preferred equities. They had 5 or 6 IPOs this year. Like that's more than anyone, has done in a single time frame. But that's going through an IPO and registration and everything. I just don't think that like DATs are going to roll out preferred options, preferred equities to like raise capital to buy more of their asset that quickly, or there's a lot of like overhead. You need to make sure that you have a huge capital base to be able to justify registering with SEC and marketing and going out and doing all these conferences. We'll see. So at this point in the show, we want to show everyone what the giveaway looks like. 21race.com/stack, 21,000 sats on the line today. What you are going to want to do is code the dip. THEDIP is what we're buying today. It could keep dipping. This is not financial advice, but we're optimistic. We're always bullish. So code the dip. Go to the site. You type it in. Code from the live stream is the dip. You enter the giveaway. At the end of the show, we will be hitting a button and it's going to draw a winner randomly. And then all you have to do is the winner that's selected, you'll be prompted to enter in the Lightning address. There's a lot of cool ones. Cash App. You can be able to use that, anywhere to be able to spend. Strike's a great one. Rhino is a great one. Olby, Wallet of Satoshi is a free one. That's super easy to use on the phone. So a lot of options. We're not locking you into any single one, but we do think it's important to actually use Bitcoin, use the Lightning network, and it works fast. So we're excited to give away 21,000 sats, and we'll keep doing these. We'll kind of keep spicing it up, but go to 21race.com/stack. Code the dip.
You get paid to watch this show. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, this I want to talk about. So this is a post by James E. Thorne. I saw it on my personal account. It turns out he blocked Bitcoin News. I'm not exactly sure why, but found out that today. But he is the chief market strategist at Wellington Altus Private Wealth. And while people on the timeline are running around with their like chickens with their heads cut off, just absolutely terrified of the market action this morning, he is rather bullish. And it's pretty crazy to see like JP Morgan came out with a $170,000 price target last week. This guy over here, James E. Thorne, from this private wealth management group, they are extremely bullish. And here is why. The U.S. government is reopening, and the Treasury's management of the TGA signals an imminent injection of liquidity into the financial system. Quantitative tightening will soon end, and in my view, the Federal Reserve will continue to cut rates until the federal funds rate reaches around 2.75%. In 2026, the composition of the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee will change. Powell will be replaced, effectively ending an era of progressive left Keynesianism control of the Fed. So let's break that down for the people, right? I mean, we just had the government shut down for its longest time ever, 43 days, and it really tied up liquidity. The liquidity got junked up in the system, and it couldn't spread around as it usually does. And the TGA, which is the government's piggy bank, is now refilled. They wanted to get it back up to that $850 billion mark or so. And now it is ready to be unleashed. And we've got this bullish 2026 ahead. Jerome Powell getting the kick out of his position as the head of the Federal Reserve. He will be replaced by one of Trump's handpicked men. And we are going to see a brand new Federal Reserve with a new replacement of Powell, Stephen Moran, who's Trump's guy. And who knows what's going to happen with the whole Lisa Cook saga. They tried to fire her, but that got stopped by the Supreme Court. But I think there's still some ways to move forward there. But anyway, yes, there are lots of things structurally that show that liquidity is coming. And that's what Bitcoin does is soak up the liquidity, right?
It's always run on liquidity, So I think what we're saying is, I think Powell right now, he's not. It's going to be really interesting to look at what history thinks of Powell, but we don't need to, go into a time where like Nvidia and like Max 7's all-time highs and just immediately cut, 200 basis points. That's just probably not the right move. But as we saw with a lot of Besant's comments after we stopped doing Doge and austerity, is that they're going to run it hot. Like they're going to say, hey, like we're going to grow our way out of this. And I think if anyone's learned anything with this administration, it's just like they do broadcast exactly what they're going to do. And you may not agree with it. It may be simple. It may not be the maybe best long-term decision, but they're going to run it hot. And they're saying, we're going to grow our way out of this. I think more people going into the holidays are going to be disgruntled with how the job market's going, with jobs being replaced by AI, with the Mag 7, leading and really being a huge K-shaped economy of, the top end is growing and AI and data centers. And you got in early to iron. Great. Like, well, there's a lot of people, 300 million Americans out there. And I say majority of them are going to be not participating in those wins, those gains. So how do you like placate, the rest of the economy is more stimmies. I think you're going to start seeing liquidity. You're going to see, I think, other ways to stimulate the economy because politicians run off of votes. And even if you have a lot of wealthy donors on the top end, they still need to, win. And so we saw with Mamdani, we talked about it last week. We don't need to go too deep into it, but I think absolutely we're going to have to see something end of year, beginning of next year to really like see that liquidity reach the lower levels of the economy and help the average everyday consumer. I don't know if it's going to be tariff rebates or tariff stimmies that we saw, the 2K that was thrown out there, but absolutely would help with Bitcoin. I think that's where, if you're looking ahead, be wary of end of year tax loss harvesting, but then hold cash. Everyone should always have some cash on hand. I know it's so hard to not allocate fully at all times, but have some cash on hand. Look out for opportunities where you can enter the year where we start to see maybe some of that liquidity filter into the market.
Yeah. And I mean, it's pretty crazy the ideas that have been thrown out in just the last week alone, right? I mean, we got the $2,000 tariff dividend checks coming. And then they're talking about 50-year mortgages and 15-year car loans, right? So it's just adding leverage to the system. And I mean, there are plenty of Bitcoiners who came out with videos who are like, if you do it right, this is a God's gift, right? A 50-year mortgage. You can, of course, play the debt-based system where you take the savings on the monthly basis and put it into Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin compounds at 20% annually, by year 30, that $300 a month that you're saving turns into $8 million worth of Bitcoin, right? Pretty wild, but I mean, how many Americans are going to take that extra $300 a month that they save by going from a 30-year mortgage to a 50-year mortgage and just investing it, in Bitcoin? It makes sense if you have the discipline and the knowledge in order to do that. Yeah, you're going to wind up ahead. But at the end of the day, that $300 a month savings is probably going to go towards an extra streaming subscription or a few more Uber Eats, and that goes by real quick in terms of consumption, right?
Yeah. It's hard to say too. I think the psychology of like home buying, I think this is like where we fail in personal finance. I think there should be like a whole like section of a course, like more like personal finance in high school, more in college, and like have it as a requirement. Also think of the psychology of like home buying. I think understanding why, home buying is very attractive. You're building wealth in like an asset, but going to the future, is that always, we're not going to see the same, I think, gap ups as we did with single family homes in the United States. Things are going to be more saturated. I think prices have already elevated. My dad's been a real estate developer for a while. He was like, look, I just don't see that, the 30% COVID bump that we saw in some certain markets happening again. So as our friend Joe Consorti at Horizon says, maybe look at Bitcoin as your way to build foundational wealth instead of thinking of your home as your store of value. That said, if you haven't like bought a home yet and you're looking at it, you do need a place to live. It's a completely different than an investment. You need to think about a primary residence as more than that. You're getting security. You're potentially building a family. It's I think it's core to your life as we've seen with homelessness in the United States. It's just having a home and having a home base and having that groundedness is very important. So 50 mortgage, I think, is actually people are going to do it. They're not going to look at like, oh, here's this extra interest I need to pay. They're going to say, hey, I want to go start my life. And, I'm moving from a expensive city out to like Texas, outside of Austin. And I want to be able to get this like starter home. Great. They're probably going to do it no matter what the terms are, 30-year, 50-year. If it makes it where they can suddenly get a piece of the American dream, I think people are going to do it. But as you said, this is just a huge signal of like, we're just levering up the system again. Debt is just nothing stops strain, as Lynn Alden says. And that's just a quiet kind of way to increase debt for everyone for a longer period of time.
More leverage, run it hot. It's the only answer, right? We're $38 trillion we're in debt. The only way that can ever be repaid is with dollars that are worth a whole lot less than they are today. But other big news that we saw this week was the fact that the Czech Republic's central bank is testing out Bitcoin. Did
Really?
you see this?
I didn't see this.
Throw up my screen if you could. Yes, they're doing a $1 million test portfolio. Czech National Bank practices adding Bitcoin to its reserves. So they created a $1 million test portfolio for crypto assets, digital assets, the majority of it being in Bitcoin. They also did stable coins and a tokenized debt, I guess is what it is. Tokenized deposit. Yeah. So the bank highlighted that this is part of an experiment, not an investment. According to the CNB, it wants to learn about blockchain technology and the possible implications on the future of finance. The aim was to test decentralized Bitcoin from the central bank's perspective and to evaluate its potential role in diversifying our reserves. So this idea was first hatched about a year ago after Trump was elected. And there was talk of a strategic Bitcoin reserve in America. The head of the central bank in the Czech Republic came out and said, hey, this is a good idea. Then Lagarde came out and had a stern talking with him and said that this is not going to happen with our member banks. But I do not believe that the Czech Republic is part of the EU central bank. And so they are able to do what they want. And even though Lagarde shook her finger at them and said, no, about a year later, look what we have here. They have a test portfolio. This is the first time that a central bank has ever purchased Bitcoin. And now it is actually here. Pretty huge signal, I would say, for the fact that a real world central bank has bought its first Bitcoin.
Yeah. And this is encouraging to see from a side of people talk about countries buying, institutional buying, but you really don't, you need that public, putting your reputation on the line, putting your future. You obviously have Bukele in El Salvador, that has done so and really, gone fully into it. But he's an outlier, right? Like what he's doing is a very different flavor than an old school European established, regime that's been in there for a while, has a voter base that's been in the, really set to like certain expectations, and maybe they have a better social net than what Bukele came into. So I think this is definitely something encouraging, and you would hope to see too, like all the Balkan states, Lithuania, Estonia, anyone that's looking to build long-term wealth, and especially like a lot of really good developers, and very tech-savvy individuals are like in Hungary, they're in Ukraine and in Lithuania. seeing them being very tech forward makes sense that they would be able to, or like be open to adopting this.
Mhm.
Just really hard to say if it takes on. I'm bullish, but need to
Yeah.
be measured with time frames.
Bitcoin has a long history in the Czech Republic. Trezor, the hardware wallet, they come out of the Czech Republic, and it's interesting because El Salvador adopted Bitcoin back in 2021, but they didn't have their own currency, right? They were running on the dollar there, and so Bitcoin is a threat to any country that makes their own money, and the Czech Republic does, right? They have the koruna, that's their legal tender, and the head of the central bank says the Czech National Bank will continue to keep inflation low and the koruna strong, but new ways of paying and investing will emerge rapidly in the years ahead. As a central bank, we want to test this path. So Bitcoin is a threat to all these fiat currencies, but it's the early adopters, the nations that are willing to experiment and go in, are going to reap the most of the benefit by getting in early. And it's pretty crazy to see this actually happening in the old country, in the old continent of Europe.
Oh, the old country.
Yes.
I feel like we need another Ocean's 11, but like Ocean's 21, and it's like a Bitcoin heist.
Okay.
And they're breaking in. It's an old whale, or it's somebody in like Monaco. You got to have a good like sexy like European location, and they're breaking in. They're still
Saylor comes in on his yacht.
Yeah,
and you got to break into Saylor's yacht and steal his cold card.
this plot's writing itself. Yes, it's jumping onto Saylor's yacht. You're finding the private keys. I feel like that would be a good retirement gift for George Clooney. Like one last good go.
Dude, he's going forever, man. That guy's an iron horse.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So-
But big news. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Remind the people what's going on. What do we have going on here?
So the people will need to know we're winning Bitcoin today. We're winning Bitcoin every single Fridays. We're doing the Friday stack. We're sharing stories. We're stacking sats. Yeah, it's our way to play around with the Lightning Network. Goes pretty fast, just like Cash App announced the big news last week. You can go into any merchant that has it enabled and use Bitcoin to pay for your purchases because it is now linked within Cash App or Square terminals. So Jack Dorsey is coming through. I think he made a big switch into Block, shifting Square's whole ethos and what they're going after. And then now he's starting to make some real impact. And I think this is a very impactful thing. So in the same way, you're listening to Rob and I just chat about Bitcoin things, and then we're trying to give you some sats. It happens very fast. You just go down to 21rights.com/stack, enter in the code, the dip. You might have to sign up, usually do Google Auth, Twitter Auth, and then boom, you're going to be entered to win some Bitcoin. We're going to have some sponsors come in too that are going to start cranking it up, or we're going to tell them, hey, if you're coming on as a sponsor, you have to make an even bigger purse. So it's going to get big. It's going to get spicy. You're still going to be listening to us talk about whatever we can do to be bullish in such, painful chart times.
But dude, I did it today. I spent sats on a coffee. There's this dude in my neighborhood who just started showing up in the last couple of weeks, but he rolls up in a van and he has an espresso machine and a coffee maker and whatnot in the back of his van, and he sells coffee. And I saw a Square terminal on his van a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, hey man, do you know that soon you can accept Bitcoin? He's like, oh yeah, oh, cool, yeah, let me know. And so I've been going to him a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and now it's finally activated for everybody who has a Square terminal. He turned it on last night, and this morning I bought coffee with sats. It was super cool, very gratifying. We were both smiling and happy, and Bitcoin's money. Bitcoin is meant to be spent and exchanged and have velocity. If it is just all sitting at Coinbase and wrapped up in wrappers like ETFs and treasury companies, it can be very easily controlled and neutered and will not have the grand purpose of separating money from state. And that is why we're here. So we want to make sure that vision is still alive, and it needs to be. Don't be afraid to spend your Bitcoin. Especially on things like coffee. Like you can, if you can't afford to spend your Bitcoin on coffee, then I don't know what if you can afford, what are you going to afford? Just replace it. Just buy Bitcoin to replace it if you're so scared of having your stack go down a little bit that way. Or you can just listen to us and win 21,000 sats later in the afternoon after you buy your coffee with Bitcoin.
Which would pay for your coffee. You're basically getting like a couple free coffees.
Yeah, a couple free coffees.
So one thing I'll show too, so people understand, is Wallet of Satoshi. This is one free wallet downloading. We have a few options, really any option. I think the key thing I'm seeing with the Lightning Network that's definitely helping adoption is the addresses that are simplified down to, hey, it's going to be rob@walletofsatoshi.com. And that's what you're putting in. It's a very similar experience to Venmo, where you're just putting in a very, English or human readable address that you can memorize and understand. And then you're not putting in a long hash, or you're not putting in a long public address that you're having to make sure every character is right, or you're risking losing funds. So I think the technology has come along. I think Cash App, massive news, Square, massive news. And then even from the, individual consumer side of, more options to be able to easily receive sats, easily spin up a wallet. When people do our giveaways, we're saying, hey, just go create one of these free ones and then use one, like a Strike. You can have a Jody at strike.me. That's not the real one that I have, but Jody at strike.me, and then you'll be able to log in and see, hey, I can just give someone that short address to be able to receive Lightning. And it happens in seconds. It happens just as fast as like a Venmo payment. But if you want to send that Bitcoin out externally, get it out of the system, unlike Venmo, you're not waiting to do an ACH payment. Or if you somehow got debanked, your funds aren't frozen inside of, Venmo or PayPal's, account system of just being inside of their ledger. You have control of your money. So it is something everyone should try to do. And I think making it easy and as seamless and as low cost as something like a Venmo, I think has been absolutely key. And that's something that's happened within the last year that wasn't available last cycle. I promise you that.
Yeah. So yeah, again, on Cash App now, you have your cash tag and you can send people Bitcoin. You can have someone on Strike send you Bitcoin to your Cash App account, right? They deprecated their internal P2P rails and replaced it with Lightning rails. So yeah, you can fully send Bitcoin anywhere to any other Lightning wallet using Cash App now. Really, really cool stuff. And I mean, the amount of things that they rolled out in the last week, it really was a masterclass in marketing and viral hype. And they energized a huge community. I think that's a big lesson in terms of how to make campaigns really work in 2025 is you find a niche group that really wants to champion your cause, and then you give them what they want, and they will go out and do the work for you. And we've seen that with Cash App this last week. Really amazing stuff. So yeah, it's that simple. Your cash tag at cash.app, and people can send you Lightning payments. Really amazing stuff. I mean, I'm sure we have some videos here from the last week of people spending Bitcoin through Cash App. Let me just get that going. Oh, and this, we gotta talk about this, dude. You were here.
I was behind that. Yeah, I was behind that statue. Took a little picture with it.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Everyone had to. Saylor didn't come with me, but it was Avi and I. Yeah, Cantor Fitzgerald conference. Howard Lutnick, CEO or executive chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, got tapped to be Secretary of Commerce. So now his sons, or two sons actually, are running Cantor Fitzgerald, and what we're seeing is just a big influx, I think, of a lot of companies that are like, hey, let's align ourselves with the Secretary of Commerce's company. And Cantor Fitzgerald has a history of being an investment bank and working with different companies come public. But now that we're seeing a huge boom in Bitcoin miners going into AI, you see a huge boom in these treasury companies. This is something that they definitely have a hand in and want to continue supporting. So it was the AI and Energy Infrastructure Conference, AI Crypto and Energy Infrastructure Conference. And so what that's about is really energy infrastructure is encapsulating the IRINs that were Bitcoin miners that shifted into high performance compute, HPC, running these different chips, and then using basically you can't always use the same chips that you're doing. You have to go out and get NVIDIA's H100s, but for the most part, they are able to use a lot of the same infrastructure. So we've seen huge pops in very pure plays like Iron's going full in with, from Bitcoin mining into high performance compute for, supplying all these hyperscalers like Meta and Amazon, et cetera, on running their AI models. But then you also have people that are dabbling in the middle. So American Bitcoin is the new one this year, Hut 8, Riot, CleanSpark, Marathon. And you had a lot of the executives there, which I thought was very telling to the caliber and really what is getting people excited, within the community or within the industry. It's like, oh, hey, versus the last administration, this is celebrated. Like, we're going to support you. You might be someone that's like into altcoins. You see like Ripple, you see some like people that are big on Ethereum, Multicoin with Solana. But I think generally the leaders that you see on the screen that Rob's showing you at the Cantor conference are all pretty excited that they're not being persecuted. They don't have to be fear of going to jail for, launching these new technologies. And I think we need to make sure we temper our excitement on some of them, as we mentioned on like the altcoin side and firing up a DAT every single day. But this should make you very bullish. We bumped into Kathy Wood in the hallway. She was there. You have the head of the SEC, is it Paul Atkins, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Paul Atkins was doing a panel, like insane. You would never have Gary Gensler go to a conference that has AI and crypto in the name and actually be on a panel. Yeah, Caroline Pham, CFTC, like the amount of government and U.S. government like positions that were there is encouraging for the space. I think very validating for the space. It should make you feel, as we started at the beginning, that there's a few people that don't necessarily want it to go to zero. They don't want it to fail. They're putting their faces on the line at like a crypto conference. So it's not just Michael Saylor that, would get liquidated and crypto's over. There's other people invested in their own careers.
What was the overall vibe? Was energy high? Were people very, very bullish?
People are bullish. I think if you look at price action, I think, this week it was already, showing some cracks. So, it's down the low 100s to start the week and, dipped under 100 and throughout the week. I think really for Bitcoin news, for 21 rates, Bitcoin financial services, I think there's this reality of like, we're very tied to AI. We're very tied to this high performance compute energy infrastructure side of it. Like that is something that Bitcoin community needs to embrace, needs to figure out what our stance is generally. Like, hey, like here's where we support this new technology because it's becoming so intertwined. You can't have like some of your biggest classic old Bitcoin miners that have huge hash rate, Marathon, CleanSpark, Riot, Hut 8, American Bitcoin, all in there with their executives there, and they're very much embracing the AI high performance compute. It's a huge industry. It's a huge part of, I think, securing domestic energy in the US and having a good reason to do so. If you were just relying on Bitcoin, America would fall behind because there's not as much of an economic incentive for us to like build data centers. Now there's a huge economic and strategic incentive for us to compete with AI, which means that we're going to have more resources, I think, available to support Bitcoin miners within the US. And then, it provides us, I think, with a good horse to ride on, or like to strap ourselves to as we want to like get farther and make Bitcoin, closer to a hyper Bitcoinized world. So I think that is like the big takeaway for external is like, here's all these big names, look at those, see the government's participating, know that from the last 4 years, people were persecuted, regulation by enforcement. But then AI is, don't ignore it. Don't say you can only invest in Bitcoin. I do truly believe that's a better store of value. That's, don't buy the top on NVIDIA and Iron and Oklo and all these other companies. But you should start familiarize yourself with the stack, like who's doing nuclear, who's doing these data centers, who's producing chips, who's producing, rare earth minerals, and understand the economy that's built around that, and then how it potentially affects, Bitcoin long term. all these big names I think I mentioned. That is like one of the big takeaways, I would say. Saylor himself had a good presentation. We can share some slides as well on Stretch. You know, that's the focus for them. Rock Dividends is a new one, and that's one that I've seen Saylor speak a few times and met him, and you know, before his pitch is sort of changed, and I think it's learning about what traditional finance wants to hear from this presentation. What's new, and what we mentioned is around Stretch being STRC. This is their latest IPO. Actually, no, STRE is their latest IPO, which is the European version of Stretch. But STRC is a money market account. It's like 10 to 12%, or 10%, 10.5%, and it's a preferred equity. So they use it so they can, you know, they issue it so they can raise capital, buy more Bitcoin. And then you as a buyer, investor, can get 10.5%. And it's paid out monthly. And they see it as like the best way for you to like park your cash if you want to, you know, secure yourself. They're going to peg it at 100, and it just reached 100. So meaning the par value, if it was a bond, would be pegged around 100. So you have some stability there, but you're getting every month 10.5%, which is an amazing return. So what Saylor is doing from that, in very simple terms, is creating a product that's very simple to understand. Hey, do you want incredible, you know, benefits from your savings account that you normally wouldn't have? Taking a step further is the Rock Dividends. So this is a return on capital, a return of capital, and this is a tax treatment for if you are a profitable company and you issue dividends. It's like a qualifying dividend. There's a few other options. I'm not an expert on this, so please do your research after if you are very interested in exploring Stretch. But if you are a profitable company and you're issuing a dividend, those are taxable qualified dividend, so you're paying taxes on those. If you are operating at a loss, which Strategy and I believe there's a couple other treasury companies are operating in the same way, it can actually be classified as a Rock dividend where you're getting deferred taxes on that. So we'll follow up with some additional details on this, but the performance, instead of being the 10.5%, can be, you know, Saylor showed a couple slides of, you know, in Europe could be like 16%, could be 23% in certain markets. So because you would have better tax treatment for those dividends than if they were like a highly profitable company, it makes a ton of sense to use something that gets like a potential 23% return, maybe in the Czech Republic, you know, as in some of these countries that the options out there are just abysmal on getting, you know, good interest sitting in a bank account. So if you have in Japan, if you're sitting and you're getting 0.5% interest, go, you know, like we need to roll out, you know, a Stretch for the Japanese population where they get 10.5%. I'm sure Metaplanet's working on it right now.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to come out of that conference was actually Saylor saying that he wanted to implement these things in Japan and the UK, but he was banned from doing so. They wouldn't let him do it. Is Stretch something that's attractive to you as an investor?
It is. I mean, it would be nice to I think if you're moving back from like, oh, hey, I think, you know, there's gonna be a sell-off, or if you're like tax loss harvesting, oh, let's go, you know, go get 10%. I would even say a good one is Strike. If you're someone that wants to participate in some of the upside of strategy of Bitcoin, is Strike is going to have STRK is going to have, I think it's going to have a lower, you know, dividend payment of like 9%. But then you have a call option to where as the strategy price rise or MSTR common stock price rises, you can actually like have a call option on that. So you participate in some of the upside, which at my age, I would like to, you know, still be bullish and aggressive in the portfolio. But if I'm also thinking about, hey, I believe there's going to be a downturn, or I have a big expense coming up, I think Stretch is amazing. And I think more fintech companies should partner with them to, to figure out a way to park that capital, you know, park your Robinhood balance in that.
So, I mean, Stretch hitting $100 is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Because that means that they can just, anytime it goes above 100, they can sell more of it and buy Bitcoin, right? So that's the flywheel they're trying to create there. But is there a scenario where Stretch could go down significantly? Could it go down to $50? Is that possible?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I think Strategy seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strategy is seeing this as a very, very big opportunity. I think Strate big part, and based on the trading volume, has been massive.
Mhm.
So they're seeing it as a massive part of their like future capital raising is this product itself. So I don't see them necessarily doing that. I think also
Because
like
you just look at like Misty, right? There were
yeah,
so many people at the beginning of the year saying, "Oh, I'm just going to put all my life savings into Misty and have this be this amazing income machine for me." And now that thing is down, I think 70% on the year, right?
yeah.
Like their capital just got destroyed. Um, so yeah, I'm just wondering if if something like that could happen to a stretch, or is it?
Well, I think with this, you're looking at, in my knowledge, with Misty, you're looking at volatility just decreasing. You had
Mhm.
so many of these plays start to roll out. You know, IMST was the Bitwise fund that was also doing, you know, selling covered calls, you know, selling, buying and selling options, and using that premium to fund these payouts. And so strategy is not using the options market for these payouts themselves. You know, they want to peg it at $100, and then how they fund that is going to be through like common share issuance or the operating business to fund these different payouts of the monthly dividends. So that would be the only thing, is the volatility, I think, is very important to everything strategy does, but they're not depressing the volatility once that trade becomes very common. It was common for, okay, Misty and I missed, to be able to suppress that volatility through or premiums getting crushed by, oh, everyone's doing this trade of just harvesting MSTR
Mhm.
premiums because the options were so expensive. But then once everyone does that trade, suddenly it's just not viable. So that's the one thing I think they have in their benefit is they can have future ways to pay those dividends. They can also pause those dividends, which I think is important to note. Some of them are cumulative. So if they pause for 2 to 3 months, then you should be able to get a payout. I need to check on that piece just to see, because I know either Strike or another one's like not cumulative. But if they were in a financial position where they couldn't, you wouldn't get a dividend, but you could also sell it on a very liquid market. It's not something you're locked into for a long period of time. So I would say it's they're going to find new ways to pay that doesn't rely on current market dynamics with the options market.
I hear you. Well, yes. I don't know if stretch is right for me, but I'm sure there is obviously a market for it. And as the cliche goes, it's their iPhone moment. It is strategy's iPhone moment. They found their product market fit, and this is what's gonna take them to the next stage. Yes. Devin, yeah. Van
Van
coffee for
coffee.
sats. Van coffee.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah. Serving coffee out of a van kind of sounds nice.
Yeah, man. You get to just take your life and your work wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go. Nice. Well, yeah. Should we get people to sign up for this giveaway and call it a day?
Let's see where we're at. All right. 21,000 sats, 21race.com/stack, code the dip. Let's check on where we are time wise. We might be a little bit over it, but we're still talking. So we're going to extend it out another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and go ahead and sign up, and we'll be paying out. The Lightning Network takes seconds. Us just logging off and clicking choose a winner and paying them out in sats, that's where the delay is. It's always the human in the loop that's going to slow you down. But we do pay out incredibly fast on these, and we're excited to spice it up a little bit. We'll be cranking up the number of sats we give away each week.
Boom, 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 boom. Cool, man. Well, Jody, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Love it, Rob. We'll get Avi back. We'll be bringing on some guests soon. We have some people very interested in joining us. And yeah, it's Friday. We're hashing up the news. Price has been a little bit down, but plenty to be bullish on. Be smart with your finances. Do not be fully allocated at all times. Hold some cash back. Look out for end of year tax loss harvesting, and never sleep on an administration that ties itself to the stock market. It
Yes.
can surprise you at any time with a statement or one tweet or one Truth Social post that'll absolutely rip the market up. So that's why I hold a lot in cold storage, just to say, hey, like, I'm not going to try to trade this market. It is well above my pay grade intellectually.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you just got your Bitcoin and you're at peace. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoy this, Jody. And we're gonna keep it going. Yeah, as we said, we got guests coming on and different segments. We're gonna try to make this as fun as possible for you on Fridays, because this is the Friday Stack. This is Bitcoin news. This is 21 rates. Until next time, stay humble, stack sats.